This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me tonight are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
This evening, this episode even, we're going to be looking at Father of Flies and You Are Not My Mother. Our short shot is Trollied, and we're going to wind up with our DTV throwback, The Contractor. Without further ado, let's crack on. Our first review then is Father of Flies. Following a tragedy, a young boy tries to navigate the new family dynamic, which involves a seemingly cold-hearted stepmother and a strange supernatural goings-on, which occurs shortly after she moved in. Interesting film, this. It reminded me of a German film called Good Night, Mummy. I don't know if either of you seen that one.
No.
So,
I heard of it, but...
yeah.
I have heard of it as well.
Yeah, that involved two young boys in that one whose mother had been away for some sort of surgery, some sort of reconstructive facial surgery. And when she comes back, it seems like she's acting like a different person. Very good film, very interesting twist, very different twist to what we get here. But especially with the the stepmother walking around in that sort of plastic mask all the time, some sort of humidifying contraption that she keeps wearing. I don't think she realizes quite how creepy it looks. But there you go. So yeah, we have this sort of weird scenario going on. Steve, what are your initial thoughts on Father of Flies?
It was okay. It was one of them. It's all a bit weird, a bit quirky, and it doesn't really reveal itself until the very last scene, really. And kind of keeps you guessing, and you're just wondering what's going on and why is everything so weird and quirky. But yeah, it was okay. There was good things and some things that didn't work for me, but apart from that, it was all right.
Mm-hmm. I begrudgingly like this. I wish it would make up its mind what it wants to be a little bit. I find the film to be a bit schizophrenic. Is it trying to sort of build a sense of mounting dread about what's going on, or is it going down the sort of Blumhouse route of like really brash sort of jump scares? It seems to want its cake and eat it too, a lot of the time. It's also a bit scattershot. Certain characters aren't really fleshed out. I mean, it only runs to what, an hour and 10 minutes? An hour and 10. The thing to do with the neighbor, for example. I guess it's one of those films. It's one of those films which says, well, now you're going to have to watch it again. So you can see how everything fits now that you know what's actually going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I think is a bit of a cheat, but it does sort of keep its cards too close to its chest until the last minute, almost the last minute.
Yeah. I think there's films that it does kind of remind you of, especially the twist, but I don't want to say what it is in case
exactly.
It'll just give everything away. So
oh right, I see. Yeah, but I think there's some definitely some good bits. I especially like the daughter. That thing that worked for me. I really like the aesthetic of the bedroom with the TV, if you know what I mean, near the end. Yeah.
That worked really well. That was really good. Some of the performances were a bit not wooden. I get where it's coming from at the end, if you know what I mean. It explains it, how they're acting or what they're doing, or and it just didn't quite gel. It was okay, but like I say, it wasn't nothing we haven't seen before, obviously. But
there are films that remind me, that I was reminded of while I was watching. The Goodnight Mommy was one. Pie Whacker is another one, with this sort of desolate sort of location and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the sort of the teenage daughter sort of acting up and things. The thing with the blind neighbor, that didn't sort of do anything for me at all. But again, it's one of those
that was
things.
The thing. It was just it's trying to be a red herring, but isn't really, and just comes to nothing really. As such, it doesn't really make any difference on the story.
Yeah.
To me, it didn't really do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just so it's kind of wondering why those scenes are there a little bit. But overall, I thought it has a lot going for it. It definitely has a lot going for it. It is going to keep people guessing as to what is actually happening, and there's definitely a strong sort of supernatural element to it. Although you never fully understand what that is until I think it's the second to last scene, more or less. And I think kudos for going for that ending as well, basically, because not many, even though we're sort of talking about horror films, not many sort of go that way.
Yeah, it is a gut punch. It has to be said. It really is.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So, how are you going to score Father of Flies?
I'd give this a 6.
I'm going to go one higher. I'm going to go a 7. I think it does most things right. I just think, it just needs. I don't know. As I said, it's one of those films that says, okay, now you know what's going on. Rewatch it. And see if that adds context to a lot of the scenes, especially with the mother. I think maybe it will sort of put a different slant on things.
There you
go. Yeah, so possible rewatch value out of this one. But yeah, a 6 and a 7 for Father of Flies. Go check it out. Our next review is You Are Not My Mother. In a North Dublin housing estate, Char's mother goes missing. When she returns, Char is determined to discover the truth of her disappearance and unearth the dark secrets of her family. Brilliant title. When Rich mentioned this to me, I thought, oh God, what the hell is this? It sounds like something ripped out of Jeremy Kyle. I thought it was going to be some really horrible kitchen sink drama. I was half right. It is a kitchen sink drama, but it's not horrible. It's actually very good, very nuanced. I really enjoyed this one a lot. It is very different to Father of Flies, which we just reviewed, in that it's not brash. It's all about building atmosphere and messing with your head. The film, for a long period, you're not really sure what's going on. It looks like maybe Char's mum is suffering from like bipolar disorder, and there's just like gone off on an episode, and the family's trying to cope. But then there's this incident when she comes back, and her mother does something in the kitchen, and I was like, whoa. What the hell is this? What is this relationship that's going on here?
Can I just say, was it the bit in the bathroom?
No, it's the bit when she makes the stew.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. The bit in the bathroom is freaky as well. You're absolutely right. But no, the bit with the nan, basically she goes, oh, that smells nice, does something else. That is the moment I'm thinking, okay, there is clearly some weird dynamic going on here.
Okay.
But I really enjoy this. It is very low key. It's very very working class horror. This one, it's a housing estate in Belfast, setting. The main character is this girl, Shah, whose mum seems to be suffering from sort of, depression / bipolar disorder, and just disappears at a certain point. There's some really good sort of relationship drama in this as well, with her best friend, or her burgeoning best friend, because he never really had friends before. I thought that was really interesting. I'll come back to that in a minute. But your thoughts on this one, Steve?
I'll be honest, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you, Mike. To me, it seemed to drag quite a lot. And I know it was kind of trying to be grounded and, like I say, it's on this Northern Irish council estate and they're trying to be set in reality. But I think it went too far in the reality, if you know what I mean. There wasn't enough supernatural goings on. I mean, like you say, there's a scene in the kitchen, there's in the bathroom, and that's kind of it, really. Because it is, to me, it is more. She's having a mental health episode, that kind of thing. But because I had quite high hopes, especially from the opening scene. The pre-credit scene, you're thinking, what the fuck?
Exactly. You're a dad. You're a dad. So I mean, I had serious issues with just that opening shot. A baby in a stroller with at night in the middle of a street, no one around him at all. It's just abandoned there. I was like, what the fuck? I was getting serious issues with that.
Yeah. And then it just, I mean, all the stuff with the teacher and stuff like that, I don't think that was necessary. It didn't, it just kind of dragged it out a bit. And the performances were good, especially, is it It's pronounced short for Charlotte?
Yeah, I suppose it's Charlotte.
And a mate I thought was quite good. The bully, she was a little fucking bitch. She was really good. Hated her completely. But like I said, I just think it was a bit too real for me. There wasn't enough supernatural going on, or it didn't seem to build any tension towards where it was going. And it just kind of came out of nowhere. I know you got the Gran trying to explain what's going on and stuff like that, and she's obviously a bit more wary and knows a bit more what's going on, but it just felt a little flat to me.
I must admit I did really like this one. There are two scenes in particular that really worked. One is, and funny enough, they're both kind of to do with her friend, whose name I can't remember. And there are sort of, there are overtones that her friend might be gay. But it obviously never established or anything. But there is a funny scene when the bully sort of confronts her and sort of, you're like lesbian or something ridiculous like that. And after she wanders off, the other girl, the black girl, sort of goes, "Text me," which I thought was brilliant. So, which there you go. But the other scene, which for me was actually the best moment in the film, is when the friend is sat in the dining room or the kitchen. And she'd already sort of made this speech about, she wears this locket, which used to belong to her mum, and her mum's always sort of looking after her. Looking over her sort of thing. That scene I thought was brilliant. And, yes, she is. She really is looking out for you, telling you when not to do stupid things. So, that really worked. It's just a shame that, I suppose the ending was good. But it's done on a budget. I suppose they couldn't really sort of do anything too massive. But it worked. It worked for me. I must admit, I did enjoy this. The only character I didn't really sort of get on with was the brother. The uncle guy. I thought he didn't really need to be there at all. But there you go. So scores on the doors for this one.
I'll give it a 5 on that.
Yeah, I'm definitely giving this a 7. So a 5 and a 7 for You Are Not My Mother. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Trollied. A drunken chav dumps the chopping trolley he's been using, only for him to face some serious retribution. Rich, why don't you take us through this one?
Quite a basic, simple premise. This one, it's man gets stalked by shopping trolley, which it's fairly simple. It's not the first time it's been done. I'll get onto that in a minute. But I just thought the execution was quite good. It's quite simple. It's basically one man, one trolley, in 5 minutes of tension and humor. It's just a simple concept, and it's just quite amusingly executed.
Definitely. Steve, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a Ron Seal thing. It does what it says in the tin. It's quite funny, quite humorous, quite well shot, especially on the subway bit at the end and stuff like that. I enjoyed them bits. It's nice and funny, and it is what it is. You can't really go much more into it. But the final shot I thought was quite good as well. That was quite how he did it, and the effects were really good on it, and it just kind of came out of nowhere, really. But it's a shopping trolley stalking a man. That's that's all it is. A pissed up, cold up chap,
Yeah, exactly. And it could be construed. You look at it. We've looked at numerous films in the past. About inanimate objects made to look scary. We've had drones, we've had a toaster, that was a classic one, things like that. And here we have a shopping trolley. It's the most mundane objects on the planet, basically, but they do a good job of actually making it a bit sinister in this film. And part of that is down to some really good editing. And just the way they do the shots, like when the guy gets in the car, turns on the headlights, and there it is in front of him, even though we know he pushed it over to the side, and then when he's going to reverse away, he looks around and there it is again. It's just really, really well done. And then how dangerous can a shopping trolley be? Well, we find out. You can get your fingers caught in it and all sorts. It could be pretty nasty. I was sort of cringing a bit when he gets his fingers trapped in it. But I thought this was very good indeed. Yeah, it's very short, 4 minutes. But there you go.
One of the things I thought was interesting about it was that it's Scottish, and I don't think we've actually covered that many Scottish films. Nothing even actually springs to mind. So
not shorts anyway.
No.
Yeah, well, shorts or features, really. But I think I can't think of many shorts or nothing comes to mind that we've covered. So I thought this is a Scottish collective, basically, called Dark Recess. Actually, the director is on a couple of different production companies, but a lot of the films coming out of this Dark Recess he's either directed or he's otherwise involved in. This Russell Miller. I've watched another one called Whistle, which is pretty good. That's just a handful of minutes long. So their channel is definitely worth a look. But in terms of the Killer Trolley kind of thing, there was a film called from 2012 called Killer Cart, made in the US, about basically the same thing, but the story is over 15 minutes. So it actually, and that actually does sustain the concept really well for this. So if you like this, check out Killer Cart. Maybe do a double bill if you haven't seen either. If you're listening. I think they're quite. So one's Scottish, one's American. Quite a nice little double bill for about 20 minutes.
Awesome. So we don't score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out, and you'll find a link to this in the footnotes below. Our DTV Throwback this week is The Contractor. A retired operative is brought to London to finish off a loose end, only to be betrayed by his handler and left with all of Scotland Yard on his tail, and only a teenage girl to offer him a hand. I started watching this. This is on Netflix at the moment. I put it on the other week, and I had no idea that Wesley Snipes was going to be in this. You know, I just sort of stuck it on, like the sound of the premise, and it's a Wesley Snipes film, which is quite kind of interesting. I really like this. It's an interesting one from that period of sort of Snipes filmography, leading up to his incarceration, I guess. But yeah, I think this has a decent polish for a DTV film, and you know, something I'll talk about in a minute. Steve, how did you get on with The Contractor?
Yeah, I enjoyed it actually. I thought Snipes was really good. I liked the relationship between him and the girl. Lena Headey and Charles Dance playing, you know, father and daughter again. And I really enjoyed it. The only thing I didn't really like, and it sounds bad this, but was some of the action. The way it was shot and edited together, it just didn't seem to. It seemed like they were papering over cracks, if you know what I mean. I enjoyed the initial, you know, the police chase and the taxi crash and whatever. I thought that was done really well, but some of the later ones, especially like the airport, it's like being in a rave. You know, all the strobes going off and everything like that. You know. But apart from that, yeah, no, I did actually really enjoy this.
Rich?
Yeah, so there are interesting things about it, but it's from that period where Snipes was settling into DTV and he was making a whole bunch of films for Sony. So between doing, for example, in 2004 he made Unstoppable, which was probably the first of these ones. In the same year he made Blade Trinity, so that's where his career was. You know, it was kind of like he was still in cinemas, but he was basically bound for the videos, for shelves and stuff. So yeah, he did Unstoppable, 7 Seconds, The Marksman, The Detonator, The Contractor, all very similar kind of titles. After a while, and then the Art of War 2 and Game of Death and stuff. So, and they're all fairly similar, but they've all got their own sort of unique flavors and stuff. I think something like 7 Seconds and The Marksman and The Detonator, they're just instantly forgettable. I don't really remember anything about them. What's notable about this one is that, as you say, he's in London. So and not only that, we've got some notable supporting cast, including Charles Dance. For a short time anyway, but we've also got Lena Headey and we've got Ralph Brown, unfortunately doing an American accent, but still a nice British supporting cast. The young girl Eliza Bennett is doing this was early in her career. She's on things like Dynasty now, you know, the new version of Dynasty, and she's a singer and stuff, so she's sustained a career into adulthood. She's quite good in this, but the concept is basically another riff on Leon, Man on Fire, take your pick, you know, Hitman and Child, you know, kind of the badass juxtaposition thing of, you know, of the hardened killer with the innocent young girl who Hugh has to become kind of a father figure to. So that's all a bit, you know, that's fine for what it is. I think what Steve was alluding to, the kind of avid farts stuff that keeps going on with all the editing, because the film has kind of a dull British, you know, low budget kind of look to it, or not even necessarily British, but just it just feels a bit cheap. And the editing tries to liven that up, and it doesn't really work. This was not just the case in this film; it was just in all the films of this type. They would do it. It was a thing of the period,
of the time. That's right.
Yeah, of the time. I will say that I'm pretty sure that because it was a co-production with Bulgaria, and I'm pretty sure some of it was shot there, because in some of the scenes, it's clearly not London, because there's like a sign in like a I guess in Bulgarian language, like a formal sign, not just like someone's written something like something on the building, an official sign. Yeah. And it was like, there's a scene that they shot it like right next to it. And I'm thinking, why didn't you just film slightly away from that sign? It's just that seemed a bit odd. But for the most part, I mean, I don't know how much of it was not shot in the UK, but I think it's hard to tell, I mean, they certainly looks like they did a lot of location, unlike something like London Has Fallen, which was set in London, but I don't think they shot any of it in London, apart from perhaps a couple of establishing shots or something. But so I think that gives it a nice flavor. It's too long. It doesn't need to be an hour and 45 minutes. And it's over familiar, a bit dull, but I do like the novelty of seeing Wesley Snipes up, with these British actors in a British setting. It's quite nice. And and it's from, this is another reason why it's a bit disappointing that it's so dull visually and stuff, because it's directed by a guy called Joseph Rusnak, who made one of my favorite films of the late 90s, The 13th Floor, which had a similar concept to The Matrix and was kind of little seen because of that. I think most people do, because it wasn't an action movie, it was much more of a detective story, thriller kind of thing, but really, really good film. But because it kind of didn't do that well, his career never really took off, and he ended up in DTV and stuff, and didn't really get a chance to shine. But so he did this, and then he went on to do Art of War 2 with Snipes afterwards. One final point is, I think although the film is very light on action, there is quite a good Snipes fight scene, where he gets to unleash. That's it looks a bit speeded up and over edited to a certain extent, but you can still see him doing moves and stuff, because Wesley Snipes is a very good martial artist, and we've seen him in a number of excellent fight scenes, Passenger 57 and all sorts of stuff. And this was one he did with Chuck Jeffries, who's acted in films like Blood Moon and stuff. So he was the choreographer who worked with him on this and several other films around the time. So that's quite cool as well. So those are my. I don't really like this film that much, I got to be honest, but I do think it's a curio and it's quite interesting.
I was pleasantly entertained by this, I must admit. I was a bit worried, after Wesley Snipes gets injured early on. His character gets injured early on, and he makes it back to this safe house in this, building where this girl and her gran are living. And I was a bit worried that we're going to end up with a film where Wesley Snipes pulls a Bruce Willis and basically spends the whole film on the couch. I was a bit worried that's the way it was heading, and this little girl was going to be the main focus. I mean, I think they do a good job of splitting the focus, sort of roughly 50-50 between the pair. And she is a sympathetic character, and and you can see why she's getting involved in this sort of stuff. Now, I mentioned
don't you feel like that her stuff is really not actually very relevant to what's going on? It doesn't actually intersect. It's almost like two different films. It's like it doesn't. She never comes into play a huge amount. It's kind of just like an aside.
Kind of, but I think that's what he needs. He doesn't want someone who he doesn't need someone who everyone's going to go get the girl kind of thing because she's too involved. He needs somebody who's sort of on the periphery of it anyway. But I mentioned Bruce Willis, and we all know what's happened there. But the fact of the matter is, he's made a lot of shit films, and not the fact that he's shit in them. They're shit films, as we've mentioned. And watching this, you can really see a difference in quality Not so much from the budget and the locations and stuff, just the way the camera moves. There were some brilliant establishing shots for like when Lena Headey turns up at a crime scene, where the cameras sort of move, leading her towards the camera kind of thing, and it's all motion, and you just don't see that in a lot of American productions. It's the camera's sort of very static, or it's all jiggly juggly kind of crap, but this was very sort of precise and quite dynamic, and it really did stand out.
Another thing with that, in terms of the visuals, is I suspect this was shot in a wider aspect ratio, because some of the shots look way too zoomed in. So I don't believe that they would have shot it that way. I think it's one of these like when you get a film on, it's been shot in full widescreen, but then they zoom in on it, a bit like the pan and scan thing, basically. Variation on that. I think that's what they did here. So I think there were probably some more artfully composed shots that were ruined in the edit, if you see what I mean.
Which is a shame. But I thought this worked overall. It was a pleasant surprise to come across it on Netflix, because Netflix isn't known for sort of delving too far back in the past when it's sort of putting its films on. I think the oldest film it's got is The Hunt for Red October, or something ridiculous like that.
At the same time they added this, they added the hardcore,
yes, exactly.
Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, which isn't very good.
No, I dodged a bullet then, because I was going to watch that last night.
Well, again, it's got there's interesting things about that movie. Like, for example, it's basically a predominantly black cast movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme, which is quite unusual in itself. But again, that's another film that's way too long. I'm just wondering, have you seen many of the films that I've mentioned from this period?
I must admit, other than The Art of War, which I think sort of predates that period.
Yeah, Art of War 2 is from this period. Art of War 2 is interesting because he goes out to get revenge for his martial arts master, who is either a trans or crossdresser or whatever the situation is. It's a very strange plot detail that they add in about that,
especially for that period.
Yeah, exactly. So Unstoppable I actually liked when at least I've had a sort of an on-off. Do I like it? Do I don't? But I remember quite liking that the first time I saw it. But some of the others were, especially something like The Detonator, just too generic for their own good, unfortunately, and The Marksman. But I think Game of Death is a bit interesting because there's like Gary Daniels and stuff in that, so that brings a little bit more. But then I think he went off. I mean, there was Gallow Walkers, which kind of got held for a bit.
Yeah,
I never saw that.
I did see that one actually.
Is it any good?
Unfortunately, no. It's one of these. He's almost playing like a Steven Seagal character in that nobody can touch him. He gets to kill everyone. But Neri gets a scratch, sort of thing. It is incredibly one-sided all the way through the film, which is disappointing.
Well, this is like this one, The Detonator, the Contractor. Because of this period, like this one's a bit like a Steve. I mean, some of the scenes in it are really similar to certain Steven Seagal films from the period. The whole thing about the horse at the end with the little girl, there was a scene exactly like that in a Seagal movie and stuff.
Seagal would give his right arm to be in a film where he just has to sit on the couch. For the whole they'd have rewritten the script. So
he did do that movie. Remember Sniper Special Ops? He was sitting on a chair.
Sat on the chair. Ridiculous, but but I enjoyed this, and if you haven't seen anything from sort of Snipes' DTV period, then I think this is a good shout. Partly because the cast and the location, setting it in London sort of helps it sort of raise up the production values a bit. So the fact they've actually had to try a bit harder than some of the others.
Did Lena Headey and Charles Dance work on like Game of Thrones together?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they had many scenes together, but he was Lord.
He was a dad again.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's interesting. So this movie would be quite interesting for Game of Thrones fans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and she is good in this, Lena Headey. She, very, very good in this. So yeah, we do not score the throwbacks, but we certainly recommend them. If you're a Netflix subscriber, you will find it on there under the action category. Go check it out. And other than that, that is the end of the show. So thank you for listening. Thank you to Steve and Rich for helping us cover these films this evening.
No problems.
No problem. Sorry I couldn't chime in on the first two.
On the first two. I really did like the You're Not My Mother. Anyway, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV Digest. Also check us out with the short shots, the DTV Digest short shots, and also their Twitter page, where Rich puts a link to a new short every evening around about 8 o'clock. Other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.